All right, so this is section 7 of my audio care guide for Uromastyx. This section is titled Interaction and Handling. Uromastyx can become extremely friendly and interesting pets given enough time and patience. The emphasis here is on patience. Change is very stressful for these lizards, and shipping, delays, cool temperatures, new cages, sights, sounds, smells, and food are more than enough to dramatically change their behavior. Only patience will help you develop a bond of trust with your Uromastyx that can be rewarding for both of you. If you've just received your Uromastyx and she is flighty, leave him or her alone. It's very important that your Uromastyx feels comfortable in its enclosure before being subjected to bigger stressors like handling or hand feeding and more. Many new keepers are overexcited about their new addition and, understandably, want to handle or interact with it right away. Some are lucky enough to get an animal that, for whatever reason or combination of reasons, is not fazed by the change in homes, but many will be discouraged by receiving a captive bred Uromastyx that is instantly skittish in its new environment. Remember that Uromastyx can have lifespans of 30 to 50 plus years in captivity, depending on species. An animal with several months or a year of shy behavior is nothing compared to the reward of a long life and friendly interaction that will grow out of patience and repetition. Many Uromastyx can be skittish at first, running when you enter the room. Blocking certain views of the room with paper can help them relax a little bit. Usually when given enough secure hiding spots, they become much braver. If that doesn't work, give them all the time they need to not run when you enter the room. Then gradually get closer to ensure more and more, get closer to the enclosure more and more often. Stay vigilant with this practice, and eventually the animal will be fine with you opening the enclosure to feed or clean without running. It's worth noting that because I have so many Uromastyx that regular handling is not a part of my routine. I often prefer to just observe them or hand feed. But even the most skittish animals eventually get accustomed to my presence and allow me to perform normal maintenance inside the enclosure without fleeing. Once your lizard is comfortable with you opening the enclosure, you can start using other methods to bond with your Uromastyx. Hand feeding with food or treats is a great way to build trust. Many keepers use high-value treats to encourage a strong response from their animal. Treats like bee pollen, ground tortoise chow, sprouted lentils, and wild flowers are excellent options for this practice and usually elicit a strong response. Through the practice of hand feeding, the animal will learn that you mean no harm and eventually become very accustomed to your presence. Hiding food or making it difficult to reach, creating interesting exploration opportunities within the enclosure, offering multiple hiding areas of different types and microclimates, and occasionally allowing supervised interaction between animals are all great ways to bring more happiness to your pet. One of my favorite things to do is let them see that I've got food in hand. Once they run for the food, I hold it up higher, making them work harder to take bites. Placing that same food in different places in the enclosure so they either have to find it or stumble upon it while normal exploration and exercise is happening is another fun game. Another common method for changing the presentation of food for your Uromastyx is to hang greens from a string or strand of metal high up in the enclosure. The food is hung in such a way that the Euro will have to use different skills, physical skills that is, to reach as the plant gets further and further away. Be creative. There are many ways to enrich the life of your reptiles, and surely more to be revealed as more and more is learned about reptilian psychology. Seasonal changes and fluctuations in temperature, humidity, and food availability are important for mental and physical well-being. Nighttime drops in temperature are as important as rising temperature during the day. These lizards evolved to experience these changes in the wild, so they should be provided. Even though Uromastyx are desert reptiles, their burrows are much higher in relative humidity than the surface. Providing a humid hide, as mentioned in the housing section, is great for almost all desert reptiles. During the winter months in the wild, it is likely that foods will become scarce, or at least less common, or perhaps disappear altogether for all I know. To mimic this in captivity, I changed the diet of my Uromastyx in fall and winter. When October rolls around, I drop the diversity of food offered dramatically, usually only feeding small amounts of green leaf or romaine lettuce, and only a few times a week. Then when my Uromastyx are waking up, usually in January, February, I start adding in more and more variety. These changes in type of food and availability of food are strong signals of seasonal change to Uromastyx, just like the change in temperature and photoperiod. Exposure to natural sunlight is one of the very best things you can offer your pet reptiles. Only do so when weather is ideal, and avoid taking your Uromastyx outdoors in temperatures below 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And always make sure that if you put them in direct sun, they can easily escape that if needed and can not escape the outdoor enclosure itself. Allowing your animals to interact with members of their species or genus on occasional supervised visits can also be good for the animal. Make sure neither animal can be injured during the visit. Do not leave them unattended for safety's sake, and keep visits infrequent to reduce stress from introduction into a new space. I use a piece of plexiglass to keep between animals that I want to ensure won't hurt each other. Most of the time I let males or females interact with each other, but sometimes I let two males attempt to fight with the plexiglass barrier. Also, on occasion, I will do the same with a younger animal and an older animal. This is by no means required, but it's just something I practice. That's the end of this section. The next section is titled Troubleshooting: When to Seek Veterinary Care.